Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes.
October 1st, we smash it 10 yards tonight. The buck we call Pickles. A south wind pushing us back to the zag.
Got her stand on our backs.
Set it out and see what happens. You on it?
Huh?
Got the air going out of me.
Absolutely drilled him.
And boom, he's that good buck.
Go get my buck, then we're gonna go get homie's buck.
Urban piece as hell.
Got him. Pickles is dead.
Kevin Gates, both kills on hanging hunts.
My first public land buck.
Nice work, dude.
Look at that. Triple brow on the right.
I'm digging that.
Bucked out October 28th. An absolutely incredible season.
Here we go.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, coming in your ear holes, and we're talking about muskox.
What?
Yeah,
This shit is broken out here, bro.
Yeah, coming out of left field. Like I said, we're 99% Whitetail podcast, but we have our buddy on, Austin Legg, tonight, and talking about a muskox in Greenland. What an epic hunt. Go ahead and follow this guy on social. He is always on an incredible hunt, chasing something off the wall, fishing somewhere. Really cool, adventurous dude. I really enjoy following him. Posts a lot to his story. I really like stories for some reason.
I would say you're more of a story guy. I'm more of a post guy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we're covering it all out there.
Yeah, I hit the stories and follow people through that for some reason. I feel like do you know what it is? It's just the laziness of the next story comes,
Boom,
you
boom,
just
boom.
click instead of you're scrolling and reading. Like, it's just boom, boom, boom. I think that's what it is, And then a lot of times I'll be clicking through and I'll click back and be like, oh, okay, I actually want to watch this. And I got to click back and watch it. You know what I mean? Yeah, we have Austin on. He covers his muskox in Greenland. He also covers his whitetail slam that he's trying to accomplish. And we get into a bunch of other stuff on here, but let's get into people to make this possible, get into the show. What you got over there, homie?
Yeah, guys, starting out this week, we're going to cover Exodus trail cameras. As we've talked about various times in the past, their YouTube channel, one thing that they're doing right now, and one thing that a lot of whitetail hunters are doing right now, is making a lot of changes to their setup. New bows are out, switching up to different arrows or something, and Exodus here this last month has really been pushing some really good arrow content. And you guys can check that on their YouTube. And while you're there, go to their tech help playlist also, and maybe learn a thing or two about some trail camera setups and maintenance there for you this year. And don't forget that all their cameras are backed by a 5-year no BS warranty covering theft and damage.
Yeah, I seen they just put up one of how to get better daylight trail cam pictures. So that's definitely one that I'll be checking out tomorrow. I just seen that they posted. I got Ride On Optics. Like we've mentioned, we got the scopes in the mail. We got them on the guns. One thing about a scope, you can look at it in the box, you can hold it, but you never really know what the eye relief is going to be on the scope. And that was something I was kind of worried about, not using this brand, before actually getting the scope, but put it on there. And it's one of the best eye reliefs I've ever had. Like, a lot of times you got to be right on the spot, to get that full picture. And there's a lot of play in this eye relief. And that's something that, like, honest, I don't know a ton about scopes, but that's something I'm always pretty particular about. I'm like, it's got to feel comfortable where I'm at. And that was one thing about my 270, that scope, it's good for me and you both, which is good.
Yeah.
Once you get it set, you never want to change it because you're comfortable with that and you got it right. But like my muzzleloader, I haven't shot that a lot, so I was worried about kind of getting the feel for the eye relief on that scope. It's a longer scope, so I figured I was going to have to be further back on the cheek, but it ended up working out really well. And that's just something that, you get when you prioritize quality, you're going to get good eye relief. And they're also backed by, lifetime warranty, best in industry, customer service.
Moving on here to Next Level Deer Supplements, guys. We're going to have we got pregnant does now. We're going to have lactating does. This is a really good package and program to get your deer on. And bucks are sprouting antlers. We're seeing the pics coming in. People are sharing them, sending them to us. So as long as turkey season's tapering down, deer season's getting ready to kick off, food plots coming in. And one thing that Nate talked about while we were in Iowa is that their feed can also help the bioavailability of your food plots that you're getting ready to put in. And I think that that's something that I haven't heard very many other companies talking about. So a lot of benefits other than just, packing the protein and all the vasodilators into the feed that they can. So you guys are getting
Yucca.
Yeah, the yucca coming in clutch there with the yucca. And you guys can check them out at nextleveldeer.com.
Yeah, that's like you said, that's something that a lot of people don't talk about is, you're feeding these deer, but when you're feeding Next Level, it has that in it to where they're going to get more nutrients, digestibility out of everything. It's basically like us taking a probiotic or a digestive pill. You're going to get more nutrients out of everything that you eat instead of just like the protein shake you take. Like a lot of people are feeding these deer, and he takes a bite of grass, he gets better. Takes an acorn, he gets better. Takes a bite of corn, he gets better. I just threw that part in there for Nate that last.
Right. No, yeah, I'm on this.
Love you, brother.
I'm on this gut health wormhole, I guess. So the bioavailability of that and everything that the deer consumes is just going to have a greater impact and make them a healthier herd overall, getting them young bucks started out on the right foot and keeping your does healthy and your older bucks getting bigger.
All right, is that it?
That is it, brother.
All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got Austin Legg on tonight. How you doing tonight, Austin?
What's up, you guys? It's good to be here.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on late notice, late night. You said you're going to put some late hour grind in anyways, but we appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time. We had met through a mutual friend and kind of started a relationship, and I had been following you on social after that, and you're out there, man. You're doing dream hunt after dream hunt after dream hunt. So I wanted to have you on here to talk about something, and I pretty much decided, he's coming on. Let's let him talk about whatever. And you wanted to talk about your muskox, which I'm super excited to get into. But first off, give the listeners a little brief history of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I live in Idaho. I've been hunting out west for, 20 years now. And I've worked in the hunting industry for the last 10 years. And as of here, just a couple months ago now, I actually work for myself. So I specialize in marketing. I do a lot of digital marketing, like social media management and stuff for a bunch of different hunting and brands in the gun industry and things. And then I also have a business where I work as a hunt broker. And so like people will call me and say like, hey man, I've always wanted to go on like a moose hunt, or I've always wanted to go on a caribou hunt, or whatever it is, anywhere in the world. And I put the whole thing together for them. I match them up with an outfitter. I find the dates. I do all that. And then I help them go on their hunts. So it's kind of cool. So I still get to work in the hunting industry and do that. But I'm totally self-employed now. And so it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool gig.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Getting to make a lot of people's dreams come true. That's something I would have to do. Like if I wanted to go something exotic, I'd have to have a guy like, all right, this is the tag you need. This is the time of the year. This is the law. Like you got to have a guy that kind of knows the ropes. And you've been on enough hunts yourself. You kind of probably know it or know someone you can call to figure it out pretty quick. So sounds like you're in a real good spot there.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, there's multiple different stories we could talk about, but we want to talk about the muskox in Greenland. And I know you wanted to kind of touch base on a lot of different topics here, but just go ahead and start off with the story. And then if we got any questions that we want to hit you at the end, we'll write them down and
Yeah, so the funny thing is, man, like muskox has always been my number one bucket list hunt. And that always surprises people because they're kind of like, dude, it's like a cow, or or like, it's a shooting cow. And I'm like, no, like you don't get it. And honestly, like I can't really explain it. I think what it is for me is like when I look at a muskox, I see something that doesn't look like it belongs on Earth. it's almost like looking at through a time machine at something that belongs in the ice age that was running around with like woolly mammoths, being chased by primitive people with spears. Like that's like what is in my mind when I look at it. And so to me, to have the ability to go to a foreign place and hunt that animal was just like, dude, it was always the top of my bucket list, And so I'd priced it out a number of times. I kind of had an idea, a ballpark idea in my head of what it would cost and how to make it work. And so finally I went to the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake. And at the Hunt Expo, there's, hundreds of outfitters and guides and stuff from all over the world. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to find somebody here at the expo who has a really good muskox hunt. I'm going to book it. I'm just going to do it. Even if I have to book it a couple years out, and then I can at least have a reservation, have the dates set and then save money along the way. And then I'm good. So I meet a guy, he hunts them in Greenland, and it was like 10 grand. And so I'm like doing the math and I'm like, I can make this work. Like, I'll pull the trigger on this. I'll do it. And I tell one of my buddies, I leave the booth, right? I'm talking to the guy. I'm like verbally like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Give me a sec to think about it. I walk away from the booth and go and talk to one of my other friends. And he's like, hey, dude, before you do anything, call this guy. And he's like, he's a hunt broker. He's a hunting consultant. He's like, call him because he knows a ton about muskox hunts. So I call this guy. I know this story is kind of confusing right now, but it'll make sense. I call this guy and I'm like, hey man, I want to go on a muskox hunt. What options do you have available? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, you're a hunt consultant. And so I'm supposed to tell you what I want to hunt and you're supposed to line it up, right? Is that how it works? And I'm like, so I want to go on a muskox hunt. And he's like, Austin, why are you calling me right now to go on a muskox hunt? And I'm so confused at this point. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is your job, And he goes, Austin, listen, I just got a phone call about 30 minutes ago from two guys who were booked on a muskox hunt to Greenland, and they canceled their hunt. And so now I have this opening for a cancellation hunt. And he's like, and that's why I'm trying to figure out why you're calling. Like, how did you know that was available? And I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea. It was just like a complete act of whatever higher power you want to believe in. And the timing just worked out perfect. And so he goes, hey, the reason they had to cancel is because they don't have their COVID vaccines. He's like, if you're vaccinated, you can take this spot and all you have to do is pay the remainder of what they owe. And I'm like, well, what do they owe? And he's like, it'll be about $1,000. And I'm just like, done. Sign me up right now. I bought both spots because he had two of them. So I'm like, I just bought both spots. And I'm like, okay, great. Now when do I leave? And in my head, this is February 22, right? And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be next winter or whatever. And he's like, oh, you leave in 3 weeks. And I'm just like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm in 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh gosh, I better call my wife, And so yeah, that's how fast it came together, man. And it was really just like a dream come true for me. And so forever flight getting there is a pain in the butt. But man, when you fly into Greenland, it is so impressive, man. It is literally just a giant iceberg, and there's no trees, there's no vegetation. Like you are literally landing on a rock covered in ice. And so we land, we get picked up by the outfitter. He takes us back to this little cabin and we eat muskox stew. It was so good. And I'm sitting there eating this just like, oh yeah, like this is perfect, And they're like, okay, gear up. Like we're going out. And we're just like, cause granted, I've only known about this for 3 weeks. So my communication and understanding of how this hunt was going to go was like next to zero. All I knew is that it was going to be stupid cold. It's above the Arctic Circle, and it's gonna be stupid cold and like very rugged. So I'm just like, all right, we'll figure this out. So when I show up, we eat lunch and they're just like, hey, go get dressed. We're going out to the tundra. I'm like, okay, here we go. And so I had like 7 layers on. I put like every layer of clothing on that I could. I was literally just this giant marshmallow. and then hopped on a like toboggan, sled, and they took us 2 hours out onto the Arctic. And we get out there, and there's just this tiny little like shack, right? And there's no water, there's no electricity, there's no like propane heat or anything. There's little kerosene heaters, and then there's a wood burning stove. But the funny thing is, why there's a wood burning stove doesn't make a ton of sense because there's no trees on this place. And so all you're burning is just like chopped up construction material. So it was very like a super rustic little cabin thing we had out there. But dude, nonetheless, like I'm so stoked to be there, man. And when you buy a hunting license out there, it comes with like you can shoot ptarmigan, you can shoot Arctic hares, you can shoot Arctic fox, you can ice fish, and then we had the muskox. And so like we only had 3.5 fish days to hunt, and a lot of stuff we wanted to do. And so we were just like, hey, let's get after it. And so yeah, man, like the very first day, people had always told me killing a muskox was easy because they're like, dude, they just stand there. They stand there and you just ride up to them and you shoot them. I didn't really like care about that part of it. I was just like, I wanted the experience. I wanted the adventure. But I can tell you, like, it was not like that. It was not like shooting cattle, like people describe it. At least not my experience. Maybe somewhere in Canada or whatever. But and in Greenland, like, it was first very hard to see them. You'd think they're this giant, like, bison-sized animal that just stick out. But the weird thing is there's these big mountains, and the mountains are covered in rocks and boulders, and the muskox just look like rocks and boulders. And so you'll be like glassing a mountainside, and you'll glass it a couple times and you're like, yeah, I didn't see anything. And then all of a sudden you'll see like a little bit of movement. You're like, oh my gosh, like that boulder is walking, And it's crazy to fathom that because, gosh, I love hunting in the snow. When you see a deer in the snow, it's like, dude, a blind person could see it. Like it's not hard. Complete opposite for these animals. And then the other factor that made it so difficult was they have a nationwide meat hunt in Greenland for muskox. And so, muskox is used as the meat for the whole country. And so they're allowed to go out and just kill a ton of them for the nationwide meat hunt. Well, once that ends and then they have their rut, and then we come in and hunt. So they've gone through the nationwide meat hunt. They've gone through the rut. So by this point, like, they're extremely weary. The even faintest sound of a snow machine and they're gone. And so we were having to glass these things at 1 mile to 2 miles away, which was super difficult. And then on top of that, you couldn't just ride up to them. Like you had to make a stock in on them. Now you're doing all that while it's like -15, -20 plus, a 20-mile-an-hour wind. So man, your eyeballs, for example, like you'd go to glass, and you got your eyes are open like this, and you can feel like the wind cutting through. And next thing you know, like your eyeball, like the water in your eyes is like freezing. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, you're trying to like pull your hood up around. It's just a completely different level of like battling temperatures that I wasn't used to. And like the elements there are just insane, man. But, we hunted for a little bit and finally located some muskox up on a hillside, and we could tell from a pretty good distance there were some bulls bedded and they had bedded down. And so we were able to just kind of like work our way up through these boulders, staying out of sight, and then kind of belly crawled the last little way up on top of a nice little shooting platform. And yeah, man, it was like 200 yards and punched my tag. So it was a blast, man, an absolute blast. And then when you walk up to them, I mean, there's just no words. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but like the reality is for me, having this like image in my head for all these years and then actually getting to go up and see it and get my hands on it and see it up close, like, dude, the amount of respect I have for those animals is incredible because they are just every square inch of that animal is built to thrive in that environment. An environment that would kill probably 99% of creatures on the planet, and that animal just thrives in the snow and the ice and everything. Their fur is 12 inches long in some places. Their hide is this thick. They have these big, massive heads with big, strong necks where they can, push the snow aside to get to the little grasses and stuff. They're just incredible. And so, yeah, we were able to get him all gutted up, get it onto a snow machine, and then take him back and get him all quartered up. And then we were actually able to use the heart and the lungs from the muskox as bait for the Arctic fox. And so we would like tie it up on a string and stake it down into the ice. And then in like the last hour or so of daylight, you could see Arctic foxes coming in. And it was crazy because when the fjords are frozen, the fjord is like the sea ice. And looking out from our cabin where we were staying, you could see like a mile across the fjord. It's just perfectly flat, it's ice. You could see Arctic foxes just bouncing down the ice from a mile away, and they picked up on that smell and they were just cruising their way in. And so we were able to shoot some beautiful foxes and catch a ton of ice fish. And the whole experience, man, was flawless. Not a complaint for me. And then on top of that, to top it off, something that I didn't anticipate, with the Northern Lights, you guys. I don't know if you've ever seen them. Northern Lights are like life-changing. They are so cool.
Yeah, that's a bucket list. That's a bucket list for me, for sure, is the Northern Lights. That's been on my bucket list for a long time. But yeah, like you said, when you think about a muskox, it's like the most hardy, like meaty, just everything's designed perfectly to live in like the worst environment ever. And you wonder, like, how can an animal get so big with so little of resources, Yeah. So definitely incredible. And then what caliber did you have to use to bring one down?
I shot a 30-06.
Did you?
And so this was kind of a bummer, man. I had a 300 rum that I was dying to take, but because of the short window I had, I couldn't figure out the process, because it's not clear anywhere, the process on getting my rifle from here through Denmark, because we had to stay the night in Denmark, which is like a super heavily gun restricted country, and then over to Greenland. And so I just used the outfitter's guns. Yeah. And so part of the reason they were like, hey, we have to get to 200 yards, because I'd asked them, I was like, I'm like, if we need to stretch it out a little bit, like, totally cool, it's up to you. He's like, no, we don't shoot anything past 200. I'm like, well, just out of curiosity, like, why is that? And he said, because you hit them the first time, they're gonna take off, you're gonna hit them the second time, and if the first and second shots aren't good shots, and they get this like kind of like elk where they get that big adrenaline dump, he's like, they're just gone. And it's frustrating for me, I think, because I'm kind of like, hey, I'd rather use a bigger caliber or a heavier bullet or something that's gonna just like end it, right? Mm-hmm. But they're used to like, oh no, like, of course you shoot a muskox like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, that's just like the common practice, just a very different mindset on that, because my buddy who came with me, I told you I bought the 2 of them. So I brought one of my friends, and dude, we got up to his, and as we got up close on him, the 2 bulls were headbutting each other and bashing their heads, which watching that on a muskox is like, it's cool watching it with like sheep, like bighorns and stuff like that, dude. With a muskox, you're like, okay, they would like take down a brick wall right now with how hard they're hitting each other. And so we're sitting there, and he's like, hey, I'm just going to shoot which one wins. And he's like, because I want to shoot like the alpha. And I'm like, oh, of course. Like, who does it, So we're sitting there watching them, and we're just like, hey, whenever you guys are done, And so they get done, and he's like, okay, that's the bull. Well, he shoots this thing, and he shoots it just awesome. Like I could see the impact. I filmed it. Everything was good. And I'm like, oh yeah, great shot. Reload. Dude, every single one of his shots was just behind the shoulder, right in the vitals. 6 shots. 6. And I'm like, guys, did you ever think about trying a little bit bigger caliber?
Yeah.
A little heavier bullet, But yeah, that's just how they do it, man.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering getting a gun over there would be an absolute nightmare, I was assuming. So I was wondering kind of what you used and how you made it happen. But that makes sense to use because I know like New Zealand, if you go after a red stag, it's kind of the same thing. It's really hard to get a weapon over there. But man, that'd be tough to pick up a gun and be like, yeah, it's good to go, buddy. You just take your shot. This is once in a lifetime.
Yeah, well, luckily they did let us zero and make sure we were sighted in and stuff. Cause yeah, I agree. There's no way I would have just been like, yeah, I'll take the gun and go shoot my dream animal. Like, no way.
Can you describe the musk ox's coat? Is it like a wiry type deal, or is it like a woolly mammoth fur?
Dude, it's hard to describe, man, because it's really like it's two different things. So they have like an underlayer that's like this thick of just the thickest, most dense wool. You know, so it's like like sheep's wool kind of, but 10 times denser. And it's actually some of the local like craftsmen, they make like muskox headbands and hats and stuff. And they say, I don't know how true this is, but they say that it's the most per ounce, it's the most expensive wool on the planet.
Wow.
So yeah, that's true. But so they have like the wool, and then on top of the wool, they have this long, thick, coarse hair. And that's what you see like when you look at pictures of them, and you can see that hair just like almost dragging in the snow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that hair is like an extra layer on top of all that wool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's the picture that you get. You get like the face with the hair that's real long. And I've never like seen one. Are they like the size of a cow or a bull? Is that about the same size as there? I know they look very, very short, but I didn't know.
Yeah, so they're very, very interesting animals because their legs are shorter, but they look even shorter because their hair is like dragging on the ground. You know, and they're just so funky looking. And then they have a hump, kind of like a bison, you know. So they have a hump, but they're very short and like stout. And so I would say they're the size of like a young bull, like a young cow bull, you know, like a 2 or 3 year old steer. But yeah, they're not the size of an elk. But yeah, they're just incredible. And it's weird because when you gut them and you get the hide off, you can actually see like those front shoulders are enormous, and it's all muscle. I mean, you know, like you look at a deer, like, man, I know guys who are like, yeah, I just trim the meat off of a deer and it's all off the front leg and it's all just burger because there's just nothing good to eat off the front leg, you know. Dude, you get the front leg off a muskox, you could feed like 100 people with the front leg alone. It's crazy how big those things are. It was quite the experience.
Do they have any rules about you bringing the meat, or did you donate to someone there? Could you bring it home, or?
Yeah, so I donated. You have to donate it. You can only bring. It's like you can bring like 10 pounds or 12 pounds or something stupid home. And so a handful of guys brought their back straps home. And my fear was that we had like a 48-hour flight getting home. And I was like, dude, I don't want to mess with like getting my meat contaminated and then getting sick and whatever. And so I was just like, I'll just donate all of it. But honestly, it was so damn cold over there that they froze, you know, when it's negative 30 degrees at night, like those things were like ice blocks. And then you think it's sitting in the hull of the plane. And then when we stayed the night in Denmark, they were able to put it in the hotel freezer. And so they actually all got theirs home and still frozen. So I do regret not bringing it back.
Yeah, I think I would have to donate it too, just because you don't know. And you're like, man, I don't want to waste it when it could go to good use. Like you said, I'm assuming that's probably like what the kids eat in school over there and all that, because that's like their main resources, because they can't probably raise cattle or anything over there because the elements are so harsh. So the kids are eating muskox burgers at, you know, muskox tacos at school for the week. You know what I mean?
There was one restaurant in town that was open. And so when we came back from our hunt, before our flight went out, we had a couple days in the town. And so we had to eat all of our meals at this restaurant. And it was like muskox spaghetti, muskox tacos, muskox burger. I was loving it. I was kind of in heaven because I was like, man, this is what I came here for. You know, this is what I want to be doing. But man, I could see if you lived there, it would get a little old.
Probably like fish and muskox. That's about the only options you got.
Yeah, seriously.
You ain't growing a garden or getting anything fresh unless it's shipped in. That's just crazy. The population, was it pretty populated there, or was it really stretched out in Greenland? Yeah.
No, so like Greenland doesn't even have a road system. So it's like it's basically villages all the way kind of around the coastline. And the weird thing about the one where I was in a town called Kongerlussuaq. It's like barely, I had to ask him like 1,000 times how to even pronounce it, and it basically was an old military base. And when a U.S. military base, and when they closed the base, they sold it to Greenland for like $1. It's just like a showing of goodwill.
Yeah.
And so it's weird because like there's the chapel, there's the barracks, there's the gym. It is literally a military base, but it has such a good runway on it for the big, military planes, that now it's the only international airport in Greenland. And so everybody just lives like right here around the airport, because that's where all the food and everything comes in. So everyone's just right there concentrated. And so like, dude, when we took off on the snow machines, we took off down the fjord. The fjord's 3 feet of ice. We took off down the fjord, and as we're riding out, there's like all these native Greenlandic people, like families on dog sleds, and it's like, and that wasn't rare. Like there were a lot of them. And so you're just like waving at people, and they have like five, like a dad driving the sled. And then there's like 5 kids, like 5 kids on the front of the dog sled. And here I am in like 7 layers, like trying to stay alive, literally trying to stay alive because I'm so cold. And then there's this like, 3-year-old wearing like a single like caribou hide jacket. And he's just like, hey. Like they're just tough, dude. They're just tougher than I am. And just nice people. But man, as soon as you get out away from that town, it is so isolated. I mean, incredibly isolated. There were times where like we would be out and walking around and doing stuff and would stop and kind of comment about like, dude, when's the last time where you couldn't hear anything?
Yeah.
Like cars playing, like even when you're out in the mountains, you still at least hear birds and squirrels and things like that. Dude, when you're out on the tundra, like on the ice in Greenland, there's not anything. Like there's nothing. So it was pretty weird to feel just like that isolated, but it was cool.
Yeah. You feel like, man, if these guys leave me, I'm doomed. Gotta be tight with these outfitters.
Yeah.
They forget me out here, it's gonna be a rough go.
Yeah, exactly. If I get out of line, man, they could leave me and no one would ever see me again.
Oh yeah, be buried in ice. Be like that ice, the caveman that they find in 2,000 years.
Yeah, exactly.
One thing that I picked up on while you were telling your story is, you're looking forward to the experience of going on the hunt, getting out there and it being -20. And just like Cody and I here, when we hunt whitetail, like we're looking forward to that 22-degree morning in November. It's like, all right, let's go. We're fired up. And as you sit back and you think about it, like you're like, yeah, that's what I want. And then when you're in the elements, you're like, man, I'm kind of sick for like wanting it to be like this, and embracing the suck. And that's something that we talk about quite a bit, is just enjoying the overall experience, because it's so much more than just about being successful and killing. It's the whole bit. So I thought that was cool. That was one thing you're looking forward to.
Yeah, it's like you kind of start to, at least as I've gotten older, I've started to like identify that in people more and more. Like there's guys who just want to be trigger pullers or arrow throwers or wherever. And then there's guys who are there for like an experience. And in Greenland, there were 5 of us hunting total. And there was one who was there just to pull the trigger. And there were 4 of us who were there for the experience. And the guy who was there to just kill his muskox, check the list and move on, that was like the only day he went out. he's like, I went out, I killed my muskox. He didn't ice fish. He didn't go ptarmigan hunting. He didn't, do anything else. He's like, that was it. And he wasn't shy about it though. He just, and that's, I guess what I'm saying is like, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But for me personally, I want the experience, and I want to be with people who want the experience. Like, I want to surround myself and hunt and spend the time with people who are there for those same reasons as I am, because I get frustrated. And that's something I've had to learn over time, is I get frustrated when I'm with people who are like selfishly hunting because they just want to check a box and be done. I don't know if you guys have ever ran into that, but
yeah, we actually have a couple people that we were close to, and then you get closer and closer, then you realize that that's what they're in the game for. And we're out there just doing ridiculous stuff, not killing, and having the time of our lives, because that's what we're in it for. We're in it for the
stories of like,
and getting
like
the stories done. Because when you do, without the story, the accomplishment to me is kind of, purposeless. There's got to be a story to go along with the accomplishment that you're proud to tell. Just like if you would have went and just killed a muskox, it wouldn't have been near as a good a story, as you go and ice fishing, you go and, Arctic fox hunting. Now you have all that combined, when you could have just went and checked the box and said, well, I got this off the bucket list. You made it an adventure instead of just an event,
right.
Is what I think. And that's how it should be. I think with, like I said, there is people that are in it just to get the job done. It's like I like to say, but that's fine. But it's sometimes you don't get the job done, and the adventure is all you get. The experience is all you get. So if you're just looking for that, you're going to get burned a lot. But if you're looking for the experience and you're not successful, it was still a great trip, and you got the experience, going to Greenland, a 40-hour plane ride. That's freaking nuts. Yeah, I would. Oh God, I would go insane.
So like even right now, it's bear season in Idaho, and I've probably killed, I don't know, like 6 black bears in Idaho, and I'm going out with some friends this weekend, and I've had in my head, I also am running a bear bait. So you can bear bait or you can spot and stalk bear hunt. We're going to go spot and stalk. I told my 2 little boys, I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. I told them that the reason I was setting the bait was so that I could take them, we could spend some time together in the woods, and they could hopefully see some bears. And I'd love more than anything if I could kill one with them, but kill a bear with them there.
Yeah.
And so, this weekend, as I'm going out with my buddies, it's like kind of a different thing, because I know if I wanted to, I'm 100% sure I could kill a bear this weekend. Like, I see enough of them. I've hunted them enough times. I know their behavior in this area. Like, I could do it. But I've done that. And so now, like, as I'm kind of broadening my understanding and looking at this big picture, I ask myself, like, what's more important in the long run? Killing another bear, or having that time with my boys, showing them why I'm so passionate about this, why it's important, like teaching them those lessons, like all those things that go into it. I couldn't take my boys on a spot and stalk bear hunt. They're too young. Like they'd die. That would make it like a mile in, and they'd be like, Dad, our legs are broken. We need to figure out. But I can take that bear hunt. Like, that is a half a mile hike from the truck. It's reasonable. Like, I can carry them if I need to. That's something we can do. And so it's like, more and more, I'm like just echoing that. It's becoming more about the bigger picture and sharing it with the right people.
I think more people should take that approach. I know big deer sell and all that, and the hype and everything going into it, but that's something Cody and I have kind of, really built our relationship and our friendship off of, is having the same understanding that, the family and our kids and the wives and everything comes first, and then all that other stuff of us getting what we want to accomplish done is going to be second, and our window's rapidly approaching, faster than we can even imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard out west too, because I wish, I gotta be careful how I say this, because I don't want to, I would never give up hunting in the West, but at the same time, like being able to hunt out of a tree stand the way a lot of guys out where in your neck of the woods get to, dude, there's times where I say to myself, like, maybe it'd be worth it to me to give up hunting out West just so I could have the experience with my kids in the tree stand or in the blind or whatever it is. I mean, the West is great. We have so many different species and so many different things we can do. But dude, my 4-year-old can't hike to the top of a 10,000 foot mountain, you know?
Yeah.
but it's just a balance, man. And sometimes I really am envious of the way you guys get to approach hunting. And it's funny because I always hear from guys out east that they're like, you guys are so lucky you get to hunt elk and moose and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, guys, it's pros and cons, man. Because I look at you guys, I'm jealous of what you have.
Yeah, I think it's like two different worlds. We've talked on here about out West hunting, and we sound like a couple morons, basically. You know what I mean? Because we know nothing about it. And but people are always like, "Would you want to go kill an elk?" I'm like, I dig whitetails, man. The elk's not even on my radar really to go do. I just dig. I enjoy whitetail hunting. I enjoy what I got going on. When I always say when I can just kill them real easy and I have more time, you know, maybe I'll make it a priority to go do some other stuff. But or maybe if I kill so many, I, you know, kind of get wrapped up. But like homie said, I got a 6-year-old, you know, he's going to be ready to rip here in a few years. And then you're going to start the transition all over again to starting just, you know, going back and hunting from the very beginning. So, and then the next boy, and, you know, it's just a never ending cycle if they hunt. But I feel like there's going to be a time when the kids are gone. And if you don't prioritize them, you're going to be back out there doing the same thing you were doing before you had kids. And you're going to be pissed at yourself because you didn't prioritize their hunting time when, you know, it was most important. I think that young age is when you're going to have the most impact on a kid in the hunting. He might not be good at it, but he's going to remember it forever. That's when they get older, just like all of us know, you start thinking about girls and trucks and sports. Stuff gets a little hectic. But right now, you know, dad hunting is cool no matter how, you know, what kind of hunting it is. You're frog gigging or you're raccoon hunting or you're elk hunting. It's all cool because it's something they've never experienced. So I try to prioritize that just for the pure fact that if I get old, I don't be sitting around in the deer stand chasing another giant and be like, man, I'm just doing the same shit I was doing 20 years ago, but I missed all that time with my kid. Because I know when my kids decide not to hunt, I'm not going to quit, you know, if they stop. And then eventually they're not going to want to go with dad. They're going to be like, dad ain't cool. They're gonna be like, I got this shit figured out already. I'm going.
That's it. They're going to know how to do it better. They're going to think they know how to do it better.
They'll be like, oh yeah, I know that spot. I know the spot to go. My dad's he's lost over there. You know, we were all there. You know, we were like, oh, dad knows what he's doing for a while. Then you're like, oh, I'm not real sure. What this guy.
That's so funny. It's so funny because it's true, man. Holy cow.
I wanted to touch this. This is a long way from muskox, but I've been following your social media, and I know that you're going for a deer slam. What exactly? I mean, I don't want to keep you too long on here, but what exactly does that entitle for the deer slam? Is it how many states or what is it?
So the North American Deer Slam is 5 deer species. So there's the Sitka blacktail in Alaska, the Columbia blacktail in Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, the whitetail deer, the mule deer, and then the Coues deer. So I've killed my overarching goal in all of this is I wanted to be able to have a room, like a wall in my house with the deer slam on it. 5 different deer species where basically people who've never really had a lot of experience with seeing deer, being around deer, could look at that and be like, oh, So that's the difference between like a mule deer and a whitetail deer. Or
Yeah.
you know, what's this tiny one that's like the size of a German Shepherd? Oh, that's a Coues deer. You know, like I want to use it. One, it'd be super cool, but I also want to use it like as an educational type of thing, where it's like right there. I have 4 of them done. I need the Coues deer. I've never hunted them before, and so yeah, this should be the year. So
Nice.
try and
That's
go to
awesome.
Arizona.
That's cool. I was following your Sitka hunt when you're out there. It was, you said there's 2 of those, right? There's 2
types of blacktail.
Yeah. Okay. I was following whatever one you're on the boat in Alaska, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sitka
I was
blacktail.
like, it was an epic hunt, man. It looked like kind of, every time I see Alaska, I'm like, man, it's always like crappy weather there. You know, there's never like a nice sunny Alaska day. It's like rainy and wet, kind of crappy.
This is how big of an idiot I am, man. I was at the Western Hunt Expo in Salt Lake, and I'm walking through like the outfitters and booths, and I see one, and it was like $2,800 for this hunt, and it was like 5 days cast and blast. So cast and blast is like fishing, duck hunting, fox hunting, and deer hunting on Kodiak Island. It includes your meals, lodging, transportation, all that. And I'm like, dude, that's a steal. $2,800 for a trip to Alaska. All I have to do is like buy the flight and the tags. Sign me up. So I call them to book it, and they're like, yeah, you know, we have 1 spot available. And I'm like, dude, sign me up. When is it? And they're like, it's the middle of December.
Oh, God.
I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, dude, I can hunt anywhere, anytime, doesn't matter. Sign me up. I call my dad, and I'm like, hey, I booked us a hunting trip. You're coming. Let's go. And he's like, where are we going? Alaska. He's like, when are we going? I'm like, the middle of December. And he's just like, absolutely not. Like, he's like, there's a reason that week was open, you know?
Yeah.
Like, nobody goes to the hunt in Alaska in the middle of December. And I'm just like, oh, come on, like, we can do this. No, it was brutal. Like, oh, man. It was cold. It wasn't near as cold as Greenland. Like, I'm talking, it was only like 30 degrees, 25, 20. But what sucked about it is it was constant drizzle. It was like a rain, then a drizzle, and then snow. And so you'd get soaking wet in the rain, and then it would turn to snow. And the whole time the wind is blowing, and you know, and it was like that just day after day after day.
Yeah. I was following the story, and I'm like, God, that just looks brutal. Maybe it's an epic hunt. I'm just like, this guy is earning this shit, because that looks terrible up there. But
yeah, so like they're like, hey, tomorrow there's like 70-mile-an-hour sustained winds, and everybody's like, we're not going out. And me and my brother are like, of course we're going out. Like, we're in Alaska. You know, like, what else are we going to do? So we go out, and sure enough, like, that was no joke. It was like you would come up out of the trees and just, like, get blown over. And so we just ended up having to, like, hunker down in the trees all day and, like, wait for deer to, like, come feeding through the brush. I mean, it's just brutal, man.
yeah.
And I would 100% go back and do that hunt again. But I probably will do it in like October.
Yeah.
November, yeah.
It's that type B fun, but it's really cool to talk about when you got home. But when you were doing it, you're like, God,
exactly. Dude, 100% type B fun. 100%.
Yeah. We have a lot of those days. Like, this is gonna be an awesome memory that we did this. You know, when we talk about it in 5 years, but right now, this is terrible.
Miserable. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, all the listeners, they should follow you on social. You're always sharing stories. You're always on an epic hunt. You're out there just crushing the bucket list, man, right now. So props to you for doing that. And,
dude, I was this close, and I'm still on the fence, to be honest. I told him no, but after I said no, I'm kind of like, can I? You know, like, but the guide in Greenland called me the other day, and he was like, dude, I'm going to go guide in Latvia. And I'm like, what's that? I don't even know what Latvia is. And it's like this tiny little country. It's like the size of West Virginia. and it's right on the border of Russia, of all places. It's like right on the border of like Russia and I think Finland, and he's like, you gotta come over. You can shoot like unlimited roe deer and these like crazy raccoon dogs and foxes and like beavers and wild boars. Like he like lists all this stuff off, and I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do all that in like 3 days, and like, and not, you know, and have fun and do it. And he's like, no, dude, like 100%. This is the coolest hunt. And he sends me a bunch of pictures, and I'm like, thinking in my head, like, this is gonna be like 10 grand. He sends it back to me, and I price it all out, and it's like $1,500. And I'm like, like, okay.
Maybe I can do it.
Like, maybe I could do Latvia in the middle of June. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You're right. I think the biggest thing, guys, is like, I always just tell people, like, my biggest piece of advice, not my biggest piece of advice, that's a stupid thing to say. A piece of advice, a single piece of advice would be, look for opportunities that are outside of what everyone else is doing, right? I don't know anybody that had been to Greenland. I don't know anybody that had been to Latvia. I don't know anybody that like does some of these weird kind of obscure things, but like, that's totally okay. Like, there's a lot of opportunities out there to meet super cool people, whether it's online or where at trade shows or whatever, but meet super cool people, put a group together and just go do something freaking cool. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, Latvia is a 4-day hunt. It was like $1,500 for the whole thing, plus a flight, you know, and you get that together with 3 or 4 of your buddies, man, that would be a trip you'll remember the rest of your life. And so, yeah, man, it's like, you don't have to just follow the meat eater footprint of hunt elk and then deer and then coyotes in the winter. And, you know, that's your blueprint. Like, go do some other cool stuff. There's a whole world to go see.
I keep telling my wife, I said, you wait, you think we spend a lot of money now. I said, you wait till these kids get big enough to start going on trips. Like, I've been to Idaho. I went out there working, and me, like, you're jealous of us. I'm just jealous of what you guys have. I was in like the Sandpoint area working.
Yeah.
And man, I was just blown away by like, there's just bighorn sheep just like walking around and stuff, and mule deer, giant mule deer. Just, there's like a trailer park with giant mule deer in it. I'm like, what is going on outside of town? You know what I mean? And the lakes, you know, you got those giant salmon there. I went on a fishing charter. When I was out there, I wanted to catch a West Slope cutthroat, because I guess it's like one of the only places you can catch one. So I got a charter, and the guy was like, what do you want to fish for? And I was like, the West Slope cutthroat. And he was like, okay. He's like, most people want to fish for like salmon or rainbows or something. And I caught a bunch of stuff they call like a creek chub. It was like big silver, like minnow looking fish. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's what he was calling. I don't know. It's like a big silver, looked like a giant minnow to me. But I caught a bunch of those, and I ended up catching 2 of those. And I didn't know. And I was like, all right, I'm going to catch one, and I'll measure it, take a picture, and I'll get it mounted, because it's like the only place you can do it. They don't even make a form. No one mounts it. You can't take it out of the water. You have to like leave it in the water and measure it in the water. Can't touch it. I was like, what am I doing? It was a great time. You know, he was taking me like way up in the, you know, off the lake, way up into the mountain streams and stuff. It was great, but I should have done more research on what I could actually do, because I took it to my taxidermist. So I'm like, all right, this is what I got. He's like, I could get a cutthroat, but it doesn't look the same. He's like, I could paint it like that. I'm like, no, that ain't gonna work.
Dude, have you ever seen, so like we have we have giant mountains in the middle of the state, and it's super rugged and remote and stuff. And so the snow melts, and we get these high mountain lakes where the water, you know, the snow melts and then the water gets trapped up in these big basins. We get these high mountain lakes. Well, Fish and Game will stock a plane full of fish and then fly over the high mountain lakes and open these bay doors and drop like 10,000 fish into these lakes. It is the craziest thing. Have you ever seen that video? The videos of that?
No.
Yeah. You have got to look this up. It is so crazy. They'll literally come flying down. You know, they're going like 150 miles an hour and just opens like 10,000 fish just fall out of a plane into the lake. And so you can go up and fish some of these high mountain lakes in the summertime, dude. And it's like those fish, dude. It's like cast, boom, cast, boom. I mean, just all day, dude. It is so fun.
I went from there to Libby, Montana, and it was salmon snagging season. And I've never I guess they're landlocked. And the guy's like, yeah, man, just get you a hook and cast out every time. Wham. I was like, God, this is the best thing ever. Like, you can take a day. I think it was 30 a day you could take or something like that. I'm like, my gosh. But
yeah, you know, we don't get a reputation for being like rednecks out in the West, but I'll be honest, some of the stuff we do is like,
I really got along with everybody out there. And, you know, just you're working out there, you got no family, so you go out to eat, and I was just talking to random people and then going to the bar with random people, and they're just awesome people out there, man. And I was in Sandpoint, and then I had to drive down way south to fly out of Idaho to back home. And I thought to rewind to what I was saying, I'm going to take my kids out there. Like, I want to take them out there. I want to take them to the Kootenai River Fall, that trail, cross that river, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and take them salmon snagging. And that's the stuff that I don't want to miss. So people think I'm out of pocket now. My kids are 15, 16, 14. I'll be real out of pocket. You know, I'll be broke too. Cause I'll be like, we got a trip next week going here. We got a trip 2 weeks going here.
Hey man, it'll be worth it though, man.
Yeah. Try to soak it all up. But all right, man, well, we appreciate you coming on. Is there anywhere that you'd want people to listen, to follow you, to be able to, you know, see some of these stories?
Yeah, man. Instagram is probably the easiest place. My Instagram is super easy. It's just Austin Legg, Legg. And yeah, man, I just love being outside. So I'm gonna keep doing my thing. And yeah, if people want to follow along, have at it.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing the content and filming what you do. And it's really cool to see a guy that you know is a solid dude. You can just tell by the videos, and you're not in it to be some giant, huge star. You're just in it, be like, hey, I'm out here doing this, and you can do it too, you know. And that's what I feel like when I watch your videos. You're always having an awesome time. You're sharing the real stuff, like the brutal stuff. It isn't some like, oh, look at this chef who's making me a 5-course meal at this hunting lodge. You know what I mean? It's not like that, but it's the real gritty kind of, you know, stuff that people can expect if they get their hands into some of these hunts. So.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks, boys. I really appreciate being able to hop on with you. It's good to see you guys. I know we've talked on the phone a handful of times.
Yeah.
See you guys and have a quick conversation. So I appreciate it.
Yeah,
hopefully we can do this. Let's do this again sometime, and we'll catch up on what we've been up to.
Yeah, you got definitely plenty of stories to come on again and hit us with another one. All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode from Austin. Like I said, this guy is always on an epic hunt, doing incredible things and sharing it in a pretty cool way. He's been in the industry a long time, knows a lot of people. Sounds like if you're in the market for kind of an exotic hunt, reach out to him. Sounds like he can set you up there. And if you have any questions on a hunt, he probably knows someone or knows the answer already about what you need to do, what tags you need. Real solid guys. Like always, appreciate you guys being here. It is literally like the dog days of summer officially. People aren't going to be thinking about whitetail for another 3 months or so.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that July 4th fireworks, and then people start thinking about whitetail. It's great. Yeah. We can see it in the podcast numbers. It's just ridiculous. But if you're here now, we really appreciate you. You're the diehards of this podcast. You're the people that make us come back every week and release these episodes for you guys. If you guys ever need anything, reach out to us. We've had a couple of listeners reach out to us here recently, and I don't know if it's because we keep saying it or what, but it's cool to kind of know who's listening and get a backstory and see what bucks are excited for this year and all that stuff. So If you ever need anything, we're here. Try to leave a legacy. Always do the right thing. And Whitetail Legacy is out.